Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. Once again, welcome to my journalistic writing class. In our last classes, we completed one very important topic, grammatical sentence and different issues related to. And today I've brought, for you a very new topic, which is effective sentence. Of course, an effective sentence is the one which is very clear, very concise. And a sentence, which conveys what writer wants to convey with no confusion, no ambiguity. Such are, some of the characteristics of an effective sentence. I'll not go into the details of, defining and explaining, effective sentence, because we have already talked about the qualities of good writing, and there we studied, a good sentence should have clarity also, conciseness also, coherence also. It should be grammatically correct as well. It should be more concrete in nature, all these stuff like we discussed. Today, of course, again, the way, in the last 2 or 3 classes, we focused on issues of grammatical, sentence, exactly the same way. Today in this class also, we'll focus not on how to make our sentence clear and concise, rather indirectly, how, to make our sentence more effective by discussing, different issues involved. This topic is, number one, lengthy also, and slightly, trickier. Therefore, I'll request your full attention, okay? And one more thing is, I'll be like, making it simple by using a little, more illustrations with the help of some slides, so that, in a less, amount of time, idea is clear and the aim of the class, is fulfilled. So starting from some, important issues towards effective sentence, first of all, the issue of unity in your sentences. Number 2, the issue of coherence in your sentences. Number 3, the issue of emphasis. Number 4, parallelism, and a few more. Starting from unity. What is unity? Unity means, oneness. Of course, a good sentence is the one which has one single idea, complete idea, the one which can stand alone. One single thought, one principal idea is, of course, we go for the unity. I mean, if I give you an example that Irfan is my friend and Eiffel Tower is in Paris, if you take a look at the sentence, it has 2 clauses in it, and there is not one single idea. There are 2 ideas which are, of course, by no means related to each other. In one, I'm talking about, my relationship, and second, I'm talking about, some place or, my friendship and the, existence of some, tart thing in, some country. 2 ideas in one sentence, 2 conflicting ideas in one sentence, no unity. Now, rule is what? That one sentence, a sentence should have one single idea, and if there are any less important details, any less important idea also inside the sentence, then make it subordinate to the principal thought. What I said? A sentence should have only one single idea. Then I said, if there is any other less important idea also, or less important details also, so what to do with that? Make that less important idea, make that less important detail subordinate to the principal thought. And of course, you will, gain the unity. I would like to illustrate this point of unity with the help of some examples. Very carefully and very analytically, see these examples and try to find out, what, which part of the sentence is principal, which is less important, and how principal and less important are being connected to attain unity in our sentence. If you come back to a slide on your screen, you can see there are 2 sentences written. One I named as weak, second as better. The first one is, Mr. Norris is a well-known economist, and he will speak at the October meeting. Mr. Norris, a well-known economist, this is one idea. And he will speak at the October meeting. This is second idea. Now, you have to decide if you want to attain unity, receive unity, you have to decide which one is the principal thought and which one is the subordinate idea or which are less important idea. If you come back to the screen and see Mr. Norris, a well-known economist, will speak at the October meeting. So this is how we gained unity. We decided that his speaking is the principal thought and his fame worldwide is less important information. And what we did actually, we used that piece of information as a modifier for Mr. Norris. So the sentence, finally we achieved is Mr. Norris, a well-known economist, will speak blah, blah, blah. So this is how, our sentence from no unity to unity moved. One more example on the screen. More people than ever before will be attending this conference, and we suggest that you make your reservation now. Again, in this, sentence, there are two ideas. You have to decide which one is principal idea, then decide which one is less important idea or which is less important detail. The less important detail you're going to change into subordinate. And if you come back and see, since more people, the first thought, since more people will be attending so-and-so conference, so the first one, by adding the word since, which is, of course, a complex maker, we changed the first thought into subordination, and second became as principal. Now, these two ideas, major, minor ideas, are standing together in unity. Previously, it wasn't clear which one is principal and which one is less important. So for unity thing, this is something very, very important if you want to bring two ideas in one sentence. First of all, ask yourself, check their relevance, number one. If they are relevant to each other, you can bring them, in one sentence. Then ask yourself, the two ideas, which one is principal? No, and which one is less important? The principal has to be, highlighted. The principal thought has to be stressed more upon. And this is how you will gain unity in your, sentences. Now, let's move towards the second issue, which is about coherence. Coherence is what? Where all the parts of a sentence, they are fit together, in very proper logical relationship. All the words, now this is what we call as, horizontal coherence. Then you have vertical coherence also, where one idea leads to the last or the final idea. So we achieve, what we call as vertical coherence for paragraphing. But here we are talking about horizontal coherence. Now, horizontal coherence means, at sentence level. If there are 2, 3, 4, 5 words, make all these words, fit together in very logical relationship. And coherence will be very much there. Let your parts of sentence, link logically with each other. Coherence will be there. Now, this is what, the concept is. A very functional understanding of coherence, if I give you, is that, look, you will be using modifiers in your sentence. If there are any modifiers, like you're using adjective as modifier, adverb as modifier, a positive as modifier, prepositional phrase as modifier. Very simple rule, very simple tip, very simple trick to gain coherence in your sentence is what? Make your modifiers, or let your modifiers sit very close to those words they are modifying. I mean, if you're using adjective in your sentence, make it sure that your adjective is present close to the noun it's modifying. If you're using adverb, make sure that your adverb is intelligently, logically placed very close to the verb it's modifying. If they are like some, noun clauses, like, some appositives, for example, make sure they are very much in the neighborhood of those nouns they are modifying. Exactly the same way, if there are some prepositional phrases, make sure they are very much close to the words they're modifying. Coherence will be very much, attained. I mean, if I give you an example, your typewriter needs to be repaired badly. Now, this sentence, your typewriter needs to be repaired badly. Now, the word badly can modify potentially two things, because there are two verbs in it. First one is what? Needs. Second one is what? Repair. Now, we are not sure that the word badly has been used by the writer for the need or for the repair. Ask yourself the meanings of the sentence. Who would want, his or her typewriter very, very, poorly repaired? Of course, nobody, Therefore, perhaps, rather surely, I would say, this badly was not for the repair. If this is not for the repair, then obviously there is one more verb in the sentence, and that is need. Then, badly goes to the need. I restructured the sentence. Your typewriter badly needs to be repaired. Now, this one is a sentence which is with full coherence. Now, once again, take a look. The sentence was your typewriter badly needs to be repaired. Badly needs to be repaired. And the original sentence was your typewriter needs to be repaired badly. Badly, adverb was for the need. But it was, written, or it was placed far away from the word it was modifying. This is what actually, I meant when I said that make sure that all the modifiers in your sentence, they are placed in the neighborhood of the words they are modifying. Now, badly is very next to the word which it's modifying, which is need. Coherence has been attained. So this is how we achieve coherence. For unity, we studied that every sentence should have one single thought, one single idea, okay? No conflicting ideas. And if there is any less important detail or any less important idea, make sure it is properly subordinated to the principal thought. For coherence, what we are studying is that make sure all the words of your sentence, they are in logical link. They are very logically linked with each other, number one. Number two, how to practically achieve it. Make sure all the modifiers are placed very close to the words they are modifying. This is how very easily, your coherence be introduced, to your sentence. Let's see some examples. The first one is what? He showed me several wool turtleneck men's sweaters. Now, we are talking about sweaters. Wool sweaters, men's sweaters, turtleneck sweaters. All the three adjectives are going, of course, for the sweaters. But the placement or the order of these adjectives is wrong. That's why the confusion is there. Why order is wrong and why confusion is there? Look, sweater is a noun. And, wool sweater and turtleneck sweater and men's sweater, these are fine adjectives. But there is one more noun in it. What is that? Man. Man is also a noun. So what? When the order is wrong, what's going to happen? That some of the adjectives would not go to the sweaters, but will go to the men. From the sentence, if you read it again, he showed me several wool turtleneck men. It looks as if men are turtleneck, not sweaters. Why? Because man is also noun. So that's why turtleneck men, it looks as if, this is one adjective and noun thing. So how to resolve this situation? Change the order. Bring the man thing at start and then structure the sentence. How? Men's wool turtleneck sweaters. Now this will be correct coherence. We are now using, now we are using what? Now we are using adjectives, modifiers for the word they're modifying. Wool and turtleneck. These two words are modifying sweaters. Men was not modifying sweater. It was showing possession actually. So we took the word men out of that order and corrected or introduced coherence in our sentence. So final version goes men's wool turtleneck sweaters. One more example. The robber was described as a 6-foot tall man with a mustache weighing 150 pounds. Now this sentence tells us that perhaps the weight of his mustache is 150 pounds, which of course is not possible, I guess. Maybe any Guinness, in a book can tell, there was some mustache, with this much weight. But, normally speaking, of course, we don't have. So 150 pound for mustache, of course not. So we will have to revise our sentence. What actually we were, trying to say. 150 pound was for the mustache or 150 pound was for something else. Let's look back again and see and decide what is 150 pound, modifying. Coming back to the sentence again, the robber was described as a 6-foot tall man. Now, I guess 150 pound, was the word for that tall man. So the sentence can go this way. The robber was described as a 150 pounds, 6-foot tall man with a mustache. You see, 150 pound was not the weight of the mustache, rather it was the weight of that robber. So what we did actually, again, very simply, we, placed modifiers with the words they're modifying. Previously, 150 pound was actually placed far away from the word it was modifying. We just brought it back and coherence we achieved. One more example for you to understand what coherence and how we achieve it. Going back onto the screen, now this is something very interesting and there'll be two ways of, correcting it. When watching a classic film such as Gone with the Wind, commercials are especially irritating. Now, commercials are especially irritating, and when watching, a classic film such as Gone with the Wind, now this is actually a dangling modifier. Dangling modifiers means, where modifiers are in verbal form and they are not actually talking about the actor of the sentence. That, modifier is, modifying by mistake not the actor but something else of the sentence. Now, the sentence is, when watching so-and-so, film, commercials are especially irritating. Now, here, simply, we have to add actor to this sentence, and idea will be, very much done up. Sentence will be corrected this way. When watching a classic film, such as Gone with the Wind, I find commercials. Now, this is something which was missing. So that's what we call, actually, dangling modifiers. Modifying to something else. Then it was used for. I find commercials especially irritating. I find. Now, when I say I find, the previous modifier, the verbal form of the modifier is now linked with, when I'm watching this movie, so-and-so movie, and if there are some commercials, they irritate a lot. Second method is starting this way. When I'm watching, a movie like Gone with the Wind, I find commercials irritating. So this is how dangling modifiers, you can correct. I would like to give you one more example of the dangling modifiers. How to correct and introduce coherence to the sentence. You can see, opening the window to let out a huge bumblebee, the car accidentally swerved into an oncoming car. This is another example of dangling modifier. Now, this sentence tells as if car opened the window, because dangling modifier, and the very next one is the car swerved into an oncoming car. Right after the modifier comes the car. Then the previous verbal, modifier, it starts modifying the car, whereas car, of course, cannot open the window. There we have to, introduce something, the real actor, and then, that dangling modifiers, of course, will be corrected and coherence, will be attained. How we can do that? When the driver opened the window. Now here, see what we did actually? When the driver opened the window to let out a huge bumblebee, the car swerved into an oncoming car. When the driver opened the window. Now the sentence is, that dangling elements are out and the sentence is properly cohered. Not opening the window and then car. Opening the window then will, modify the car. Car cannot open the window. So when the driver opened the window, so here actor is introduced and, coherence achieved in the sentence. One more example. Patients should try to, if possible, avoid going up and down stairs. Now, this is actually a new idea. For coherence thing, they say that if you are using any infinitive in your sentence, now infinitive is the one to plus verb. They say don't split infinitives. Don't introduce any word inside to or between, to and the verb. What I'm trying to say is infinitive, to plus verb, don't introduce any more word to this infinitive inside. I can illustrate this point with the help of an example. Patients should try to avoid. Actual sentence is patients should try to avoid, and written is patients should try to, if possible, avoid. Now, what we did actually, patients should try to avoid, this should have been a better choice, but by mistake, which we call as split infinitives, patients should try to, if possible, avoid. To, if possible, avoid. Don't do this thing. This is called, splitting infinitive. To separate, it's verb separate. Don't do that. What happens actually? Coherence will be lost. Sometimes we do in contemporary English, or you can say any modern book of, this grammatical and effective sentence may, say that there's no problem if you, split infinitives, but master of the subject, masters of the subject, they say, don't split infinitives. Let's see our next issue of coherence, and that is football in America is different from the rest of the world. What is this? Football in America is different from the rest of the world. This is called illogical comparison. Coherence is lost when you're comparing two things which logically are not comparable. In this sentence, football in America is different from the rest of the world. What I'm doing actually, I'm comparing football and the rest of the world. Football can be compared with football. A style of football, talking about the game thing, a style of one game can be compared with the style of another game, or with the style of another style of the same game. But how come, I can compare football with the rest of the world? We have to introduce certain words, to our sentence, which could actually, decide the logical comparison, the logical link. For example, simply speaking, the football in America is different from the football in the rest of the world. This is one possibility. Since there is a repetitive thing, you can say the football in America is different from that of the rest of the world. So this is how we can compare logically to things. There can be another possibility that my teeth are, cleaner than you, for example. Now, my teeth, I'm comparing the teeth of mine with you. This is illogical comparison. I have to compare the teeth of and then the teeth of yours. So this is how, I can compare. My room is brighter than you. If I'm comparing my room and your room, then there is no problem, But here I'm comparing what my room is brighter than you, that my room, probably it's well-lighted, your room is not well-lighted, it's ill-lighted. So comparison has to be, logical. My room is brighter than yours or than your room. This is how, the logic will bring in for coherence. And last issue and example, that when you are discussing conflicting ideas, let's say a sentence has, conflicting idea. I mean, there are two parts of two clauses, of a sentence. One clause talks about the plus, 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 and the second talks about the minus, minus. How to do that? Of course, you will confuse your readers if you do not, adopt certain measures. I mean, some punctuation stuff like, if you do not introduce to your sentence, your readers will be confused that it's hot and cold, in one breath. You are saying good, same time, and then very next breath, you are saying bad. Example, let's say private vehicles. They have the benefits and they have the drawbacks also. If in the same sentence, in one clause, I talk about benefits. In the second clause, I talk about the drawbacks. Reader will be confused. It will be, plus one, minus one, sort of like, confusion. Quite conflicting. So I have to do something. For example, I can introduce semicolon and conjunctive adverb, for example, which should show contrast. Now, by introducing semicolon and conjunctive adverb, let's say however. Now, however is something which shows contrast, mean left and right elements are in conflict with each other. Example, you can see private vehicles provide independent transport, freedom, and many jobs. Now, in this first clause, we talked about the plus side of the private vehicles. Private vehicles, give us freedom and, independent transport and many jobs. And let's see the second part of the sentence. And they cause pollution, traffic jams, noise, and death. And simply combines elements of the same sorts, not of the conflicting sorts. Independent transport, freedom, many jobs, these are the benefits. Traffic jam, pollution, death, these are the drawbacks. How come these two conflicting ideas be combined with the help of and? And is like, 1 plus 1, Therefore, what we do actually for coherence thing, that add, let's say, semicolon, write however, put comma, and then combine. Now, the sentence will be read this way. Private vehicles provide independent transport, freedom, and many jobs. Semicolon, however, they cause pollution, traffic jams, noise, and death. Now, this is how we achieve coherence in our sentences. Unity is there, coherence is there. And the third important point towards effective sentence is emphasis now. Now, what is emphasis? Emphasis means, just to, give you an idea, actually. Let's say, when we say there are some major and minor details in your sentence or in a paragraph, what do you think? Which side should be highlighted more, should be stressed more, should be amplified more, should be underlined, in other words? Of course, the major part, not the minor one. This is what actually we always say, that emphasis should go on to the principal thought, not onto the subordinate idea. I mean, independent principal thought has to be highlighted for emphasis, and subordinate should not be. If there's some cause and effect, for example, then effect is going to be highlighted more. Cause will be actually the reason of that effect. So this is how, emphasis we, talk about. Now, practically speaking, I mean, the functional aspect of introducing emphasis to your sentence. Look here. A sentence has possibly 3 places or 3 positions. Take it this way, starting position, middle position, and ending position. Okay? Now, 2 positions which I said, starting and ending, these are 2 very, very important positions. These positions should be only allotted to your major, your principal thought. And all subordinate elements, all, pieces of less, important information or ideas should be sandwiched, should be given the middle position. What I'm trying to say is that starting and ending, these 2 are very, very important positions, and these are, we also call, emphatic positions. These should be given to the major idea, the principal idea, the principal thought, and any subordinate elements, any less important information, then should be brought to the middle position. Example to illustrate. The airplane reached the speed of sound and it was difficult to control it. The airplane reached the speed of sound. This is one idea. The airplane was difficult to control. As I said, for emphasis thing, initial position and the final position of a sentence are very important. The middle position is not that important. Less important information, can be put over there. Now, there are 2 ways of now, restructuring or combining this sentence or introducing emphasis to this sentence. The airplane reached the speed of sound. Now, this one is the cause. The airplane was difficult to control. Now, this one is the effect. Of course, the principal thought is what? The airplane was difficult to control. Now, your reader can ask you a question, why? You can say, well, it reached the speed of sound. It was very difficult for the pilot, to control it. So, we have decided that what's the principal thought? Principal thought then is the airplane was difficult to control. If the airplane was difficult to control is the principal thought, then the other thought we can make subordinate. For example, as it reached the speed of sound, the airplane was difficult to control. What we did actually, we structured these 2 sentences into a complex one. A complex one means the major idea, which was what? The airplane was difficult to control, is the independent clause. As it reached the speed of sound became dependent clause, subordinate clause, less important clause, less important idea. The airplane was difficult to control became the principal thought, the main idea, and the independent clause which can stand alone. And as it reached the speed of sound became dependent on the principal clause. So this is one possibility to introduce emphasis to your sentence. There is another possibility. applying the same rule which I said. Initial and final positions are very important. They are, emphatic, places, and they can really enhance, actual part of your sentence, can amplify, and the less important information you can, bury inside. For example, the airplane, when reached the speed of sound, was difficult to control. Now, what I did actually, I, gave two emphatic places and positions to the principal thought, which is what? The airplane was difficult to control. What I did, one part of the sentence I put at initial position, the airplane. And one part of the sentence I put at final position was difficult to control. When it reached the speed of sound, I buried inside. My final sentence, my final version became the airplane, when reached the speed of sound, was difficult to control. Now, this is an example of excellent, the concept, which we are talking about, emphasis. Excellent example of emphasis thing, that two simple sentences or two fused sentences or two comma splices, sentences, what we did actually, we put them together, created a complex sentence. In complex sentence, one major, one minor, emphasis is done. Major idea, principal thought. Minor idea, subordinate thought. Wonderful. Third, ideal position, where the principal idea is one part at initial place, one part at final place, and the less important idea buried inside. The airplane, when reached the speed of sound, became difficult to control. One more example for your interest. There are several projects that we must finish within this week. Now, if you see in this sentence, there are several projects that we must finish within this week. Dear students, please keep in mind, starters like their starters or it is starter, they weaken your sentence. I mean, if you start your sentence from there, that's a weak starting of a sentence. Or if you start your sentence, it's a weak starting of a sentence. Same sentence, we can make effective how? Several projects must be finished within this week, or we must finish several projects this week. Now, we are not starting from there. One more example. The editor was sent the copy of the letter by the chief editor. Now, this is passive sentence. Now, what is passive sentence? Passive sentence is the one where the stress shifts on to the action, whereas it should have been on to the actor. Active sentence, actor is active. Passive sentence, the agent, which we call as actor, or you call as subject, or the one who is the doer of the action, he is missing. So when that is missing, emphasis is on action, which again, you will say there is no emphasis on the right part. So try to use active sentences more. Why active sentences more? Because the actors are the doers of actions. Emphasis should be on the doers of actions, not on the action. Agents should be active. Agent should receive the emphasis, not action. I mean, if you see the sentence again, the editor was sent the copy. The editor was sent the copy, by the chief editor. Why don't you restructure the sentence active way? The chief editor sent the copy to the editor, or sent editor the copy of the letter. So this is how, your sentences will be active, and stress will be, emphasis will be right onto the agent. So what we have seen in emphasis thing, that try to decide about which one is major and minor idea, and keep in your mind initial and final positions are most emphatic positions. So let your major idea, be placed onto these two emphatic positions, and less important details be, put inside. And another important thing, that use active sentences because active sentences have the agents active, actors active, doers of actions active, emphasis has to be on it. And their starting is a weak starting. Try to avoid when possible. Now, let's move towards our fourth very, very, very important issue towards effective sentences, and that's parallelism. If there are ideas in your sentence, I mean, two ideas in your sentence, or more than two ideas in your sentence, very, very relevant ideas, you can say the components of the same principal thought, they have to be in parallel grammatical form. What I'm trying to say is, let's say there are three, ideas in your sentence. Again, I'm saying don't please understand it this way that how come three ideas can be in one sentence? I mean, three pieces of the same, one single idea. Now, what is parallelism? Parallelism means, put all the three ideas in parallel grammatical form. Means if in the first idea you have used one single word, second idea should also have one single word, third idea should also have one single word. If the first one has a phrase, second and third should also have phrase. If first has one clause, then second and third should also have one single clause. So this is how we, introduce. If you are starting the first idea with, let's say, gerund, ing verb, all should be with ing verb. If the first one is with infinitive, all should be with infinitive. This is we call parallelism. And there'll be music in your sentence. There'll be a rhythm in your sentence. Just imagine you are reading a sentence with three, ideas. In the first idea, you start with the infinitive. Second idea, you start with gerund. Third idea, you make it passive. What music, what rhythm will be left in that sentence? Just like, words put together. No good, feeling you are like giving or offering to your reader. He should read your language and get from. So try to introduce parallelism in your writing. Let's, see some examples to have further illustrations. Rule number 1 says what? Balance parallel ideas linked with coordinating conjunctions such as and, but, and nor. Balance, link ideas, make them parallel, which are coordinating conjunctions starting from like and, but, and or. Example 1 says, theft, vandalism, and cheating can result in suspension or even being expelled. Now, interesting thing. Suspension or even being expelled. Now, these are two ideas in the sentence. Suspension is a noun. Even being expelled, of course, it's, it's in perhaps passive form. So, if you have used in the first one as suspension, then try to use the second verb also in the same noun form, suspension and expulsion. If you read the sentence this way, you will see that music, feel that. Theft, vandalism, and cheating can result in suspension or expulsion from school. Not or, even being expelled from school. If you say even being expelled from school, of course, idea would be there. I mean, you are like, discussing things, but the beauty that will be missing. When parallelism, your ideas are parallel, what happens? There is a rhythm, a music, introduced to your sentence. And one enjoys reading, Let's see one more sentence. David is responsible for stocking merchandise, all in-store repairs, writing orders for delivery, and sales of computers. If you see, all the verbs are in ing form, except the last one. And the last one was, and sales of computers. Like a noun thing, sales of computers. Why not selling here also? If the previous three are in ing form, what's wrong with the last one? Why last cannot take the same form? Ing form. So the sentence will go what? stocking, writing, and selling. Stocking, writing, and selling. Or to stock, or to write, or to sell. I mean, whatever like stuff you choose, it has to be, pedal the same way. Okay, now let's move towards another important issue. That's needed words. What is needed words? Needed words are imperative words, indispensable words. Such words, if you delete, meanings will be confused and your sentence will be less effective. How it happens, when we go towards conciseness, for example, what we do by mistake, we start deleting those words also which are actually the main fabric of your sentence, or without which perhaps readers, chances are, will be confused and not understand the actual meanings. I mean, let's see what are one or two rules for the needed words where you can and where you cannot delete, and then I'll illustrate this point further with the help of one or two examples. Like rule number 1 for needed words is add words needed to complete compound structures. Its example: some of the regulars are acquaintances whom we see at work or live in our community. Now, if I add who here, the meanings will be rather more clear. Like, some of the regulars are acquaintances whom we see at work or who live. Whom we see at work or who live in our community. Whom in the first part and who in the second part. If you delete whom or you delete who, in either of the case, sentence, will be, I would say, weak, and meanings will be confused. How meanings will be confused? Come back to the sentence. Some of the regulars are acquaintances whom we see at work or live. Now, when we delete who in the second part, then the focus is shifted onto the writer, not onto the, the people writer actually is talking about. One more example. I never have and never will accept bribe. I never have and never will accept bribe. Now, please see here. I never have. Now, have is what? It's a perfect, form, and it takes past participle. I never have accepted. Okay, now the second verb is what? Will. Now, will is what? A modal. It takes what? The first form of the verb. So, when you're using have and will for the present form of the simple first form of the verb, then they don't agree with each other. Will agrees with first form of the verb accept. Have does not agree with the first form of the verb. Have needs accepted. So in this case, we'll make the sentence strong by adding have form also, like I never have accepted and never will accept, bribe. This is how we'll make our sentence strong. One more example. As Joe began to prepare dinner, he discovered the oven wasn't working properly. He discovered the oven wasn't working properly. Now here one key word is missing. He discovered oven. It looks as if, he discovered oven. What a wonderful discovery. No, actually, that is missing here. That is a needed word. Without that, meanings will be altogether different. So he discovered that the oven wasn't working properly. This is how the sentence will be effective. So please keep in mind, yes, I encourage that any awkward word in a sentence, any, needless words, in your sentence should be very much, taken out, deleted, from. If deleted from does not mean that you start even deleting those words which are or which make a skeleton of your sentence. Please don't do that. Remove words, but don't remove the imperatives, the indispensables. Then your sentence will be weak, not strong. Now, dear students, let's move towards another important issue, which we call shifts. Now, shifts means what? That, to explain this, let me first discuss with you very briefly what shifts are. When writers write, of course, they, hold a point of view. And the point of view is basically the perspective, actually, from which they produce those pieces of, writings. The point of view can be in first person form. The point of view can be in second person also. The point of view can be in third person also. I mean, when I say first person point of view, I mean, when writer uses this kind of language, I and we, when he uses I and we, it means he is sort of discussing things informal, sort of discussing things based on his own experience. Fine. So, I and we are informal, based on writer's own experience, things he's discussing, his own life, for example. Second one, second person point of view. For example, you. Now, you means that he is reader focused. And third person point of view, he, she, it, or they, this is subject focused, very, very right for professional and academic writings. Now, when I say shift, now shift means when you shift the point of view. Some writers, by mistake, they shift the point of view. They are discussing I and we, they start discussing you. They're discussing you, you point of view, reader-focused point of view, and they start discussing, he, she, and it, subject-focused point of view, and reader is confused. So try to, follow one point of view and stick to it. If it's I and we, everywhere in your sentence, I and we thing, should continue. If it's you, then you should go for the you. If it's, third person, subject focused, that shift should be there. And one more problem of the shift is that you are talking about present. All the verbs are present, and at once you shift the tense. You start discussing past thing. In one sentence, one verb is present and second verb is past. How come? Shift is changed. Shift is about today, and you start discussing about yesterday. Shift is about today, and you start discussing about the future thing. This, should be avoided. Very, very briefly, in just, 1 minute, I would like to show you one example, and then I'll wind up, today's discussion on effective sentence. On your screen, you can see the first sentence, everyone should purchase a lift ticket unless you. Now, if you see everyone, you're talking about everyone, and then you're shifting from everyone to you. That's a mistake, actually. So, you should purchase a lift ticket unless you plan. Now, I introduced you at start, you in the middle. Now, you are in the right point of view. One more example. 1 week our class met in a junkyard to practice. We learned to dismantle the car with the essential jobs. You were graded on your speed. My point of view is, we, our, and at once I shifted, from first person point of view to second person point of view. And, of course, readers are confused. So, change all you or your into we and our. So, this is how, we make our sentence, effective. Dear students, a lot many things, we can discuss on effective sentence. More ideas, we can add to our discussion. More issues we can always bring and discuss. But I'll, cut my, lecture and my details right here. And, of course, if there are any points, which are left, directly or indirectly in the upcoming classes, we'll make, point of discussion, reference to. With this much on effective sentence, which we started from unity, and then we went down to, coherence, and then emphasis, and then parallelism, and the fifth point, shift thing. These, I believe, are 5 most important points, which actually you can say, the requisites for sentences to be effective. And without, if anyone is missing, believe me or not, your sentence will be weak, not strong. So I hope you enjoyed today's discussion and lesson. And I believe you learned, something about from grammatical moving down to effective. And, you studied in detail with new perspectives of unity, emphasis, coherence, and parallelism. With this, I wish you a very, very good luck. And good luck to you. Good luck to your studies. And see you next time with a new topic. Till then, bye-bye.